a long time. Tasha's my sister-in-law recently, and I met Kim at the last meeting we did, and we talked a little bit offline about this stuff. And so what I want to do is create a panel of people who have experienced and gone through a pretty significant change by losing a lot of weight and dramatically improving their health. So I reached out to them, and they offered to jump on the panel. So it's going to be most of them talking. I have some questions I wanted to kind of get out there to discuss. I think stuff that if somebody at home maybe watches on YouTube next week, next month, could get some good insight. And then at the end, if we have some time, I'll just kind of open up to anybody else who wants to ask any questions. But I'll let them go ahead and start. Just introduce yourself. We'll start here with Kim. Introduce yourself. Kind of tell us, where you start, kind of starting weight, and what you do. Kind of background about yourself.
I'm Kimberly. I'm 31. My starting weight was about 245. I was at my heaviest when I moved to Fort Wayne 8.5 years ago, and in that time, on a good day, 120-pound loss. On a bad day, 116. It took me a good 5 years to lose the weight. I lost like 50 pounds, then I'd lose 20, gain 20 back, and kind of yo-yoed, and then lose the last 70 through a combination of running and Weight Watchers, and learning kind of to re-identify myself and really working to shed the fat girl image.
My name's Tasha, and I've lost about, like her, it kind of, varies of course, but I'm anywhere between 125 and 130 pounds lost. I was 277 at my heaviest. Like she said, I kind of had the fat girl image. I grew up with really low self-esteem, which of course fed into my food addiction and my lack of exercise, my lack of moving. And I had never tried losing weight before. I had never tried working on myself at all. I just kind of floated through high school, floated through college, did never make any attempt to lose any weight. And one day, it was May 27th, 2008, I rolled over in bed, and I realized it took me like 2 turns to roll over in bed. And that was it. Like it just clicked. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. I literally have to move my fat over to get out of bed. So I just simply started walking, and that's all I did at the beginning. I walked 2 miles. And then I would say, okay, now I have to walk to the next stop sign. Now I have to walk to the next street light, and then just kind of kept building. And I didn't do, Weight Watchers or any type of food program or anything like that. I did a lot of portion control. Tried to still eat a lot of the same foods. Instead of eating a double cheeseburger meal, I was eating Happy Meals. So, it just kind of went from there. And then I started running, and now I do CrossFit and running. So, yeah.
My name is Josh Barkley, and my heaviest would have been, a year and a half ago. I think it'd be 2 years in May, roughly. I weighed 375. 6 months ago, I was down to about 239. I'm currently probably at 265. And I told Justin I'm a proof of what you do if you stick to, I believe in eating paleo, and there's a lot of obviously different diet programs, or diet lifestyles, whatever you want to call it. But probably went the first year plus eating strict paleo, doing everything right, to eating 1% paleo and 90% fried foods the past 6 months. So, and kind of seeing that, just seeing how good my body felt then and to now. So that's kind of where I'm at, and it's obviously said it's a lifetime journey, so it's not going to end tomorrow.
So Tasha kind of went in and talked about it. Talk about the tipping point for you two. Was there a day that was that specific, or was there an event or something that just said you got to change? Talk to them.
Yeah, my wife and I have, August will be 8 years we've been married, and for the past 4 years we've tried having children, and unsuccessfully. It was her issues, my issues, but inevitably, probably a lot of it was when we first got married. I weighed about 245 when we met, and then gained all 130 pounds in less than 8 years, and knew I needed to do something. My wife was on me, but you don't want to listen. And but it literally took going to a, she had a bunch of different surgeries and things that she had to do, and all the stupid fertility treatments and different things, and being poked and prodded and whole 9 yards. And I saw that and I thought, how selfish am I? My wife's having to go through surgeries, and here I am, sitting on the couch. So I had to go to a, I don't know all the doctor terms, urologist, I think. Is that right, Kathy? For testosterone? Is that, okay. So, and sat in that office, and it was Dr. Thomas, and sat with him. My wife was sitting there, and he looked at me and said, you've got this, your testosterone's low, you need to lose weight. And Heather, she'll tell you if she was here, she's sick this morning, that she goes, well, this is the last time we'll ever be here. And he also had issues with infertility and kind of shared that with us, and it was just like something clicked. And that was what, inevitably the next day probably I called Justin and just started from there. So I have I don't know what the word is, like 110% personality. Like I'm either sitting on the couch eating 10,000 calories a day, or I'm the other way. So that's kind of the tipping point for me, and what took me on the journey of losing weight.
My tipping point, as I had said, my diet journey was long, but what really made it click for me was in March 2009, my mom died. And when she died, doctors estimated 600 pounds. They did not know because she couldn't fit on a scale. The doctors would say, on her death certificate is not obesity, but any of the doctors we talked to in the 2-week stretch where we were in the hospital and kind of making life-altering decisions, they said it was her weight. And I was pissed. For years I had fought with her about her weight. I had told her her medical problems were directly related to her obesity and her failure to take care of her diabetes. And she said it was not that, it was this and other things. And I was angry, and as I was going through the grieving process, I realized I couldn't be mad at her. I had lost this, at one point 70 pounds, and I was so close to that 200 mark. And how could I be mad at her if I was not doing the things I had wanted her to do? And in about that same time, my friend had joined Weight Watchers, and I'm no longer a member of the program, so it's not like, yay, Weight Watchers. And I had also assumed the care of my mom's dog, a 7-month-old Siberian Husky. And together with those things, I really committed myself to being a better person. And it's kind of surface, as it seems, a better dog owner. I didn't want to be the person my mom was. And it's a terrible thing to say, because I feel like you should want to be like your mom. And I wanted to be the opposite. And so I started moving a little bit, like Tasha said. I just started walking. I was like, I'm going to walk the dog. It was 2 miles, and then, I'm going to walk for an hour. And then I decided to do couch to 5K, because I figured winter's coming along. It's going to be a lot less chilly to walk the dog, or to run the dog 3 miles than it's to walk the dog. And that's kind of how things worked.
I think it's a good segue then. So talk a little bit more about, you guys all said you two started by just walking then. Then how was the next step and the next progression? So I guess the point here is, if somebody else is out there, right, and they're looking in the same boat and they start walking, how did you guys make that next step that didn't intimidate you to walk into a gym, or didn't intimidate you to go online to figure this out? What was that next step, the couch 5K, and then a little further on from that?
I did couch to 5K, and I had finished the program right around Thanksgiving when the Galloping Gobbler is, and I had told a coworker, I was like, I would love to do it, but there's no way I could run 4 miles. And he's like, well, if you can run 3 miles, you can run 4 miles. And I was like, no, you don't know who I am. I really can't run 4 miles. And so I didn't sign up, but that Thanksgiving morning, my husband and I were like, all right, let's try it. Let's see what happens. I'm not going to embarrass myself in front of anyone. It's just me, my husband, and the dog. And wouldn't you know it, I ran that 4 miles. And it was a slow 4 miles. And so I was kind of like, well, there's another program, at 1 Hour Runner, and I I thought about doing that. And then all of a sudden my husband was sitting on the couch and he goes, you know what we should do? And I was like, what? He's like, we should run the Indy Mini. And I was like, no. And I was like, you can run the Indy Mini. But I just ran 4 miles and I'm totally fine with that. I started looking at things and I realized that there's a half marathon in Cincinnati where my family's from called the Flying Pig. And what did you know it? My in-laws heard about the plan and offered to pay for my registration. And so I was kind of locked in. And, I took 6 months, which now looking back is a very long time to train for a half marathon, but the goal was to finish. And so that 6 months was really good in just kind of working my way up. I took things very slow and took it at my own time. And so that's what I did.
Like I said earlier, I just started walking and just tried to simply increase it a little bit at a time. I started in May and I lost about 35, 40 pounds between May and October. And I finally joined the YMCA in Whitley County where I'm from. And I remember thinking, I'm 40 pounds lost, so I'm still like at the 230 mark, but I was feeling, pretty good and feeling so much more healthy. And I remember getting on the elliptical and I was on it for 4 minutes and I thought I was gonna die. Like I felt so bad. Like, I'm never going back, and of course I did. But I think it almost sounds so cliche to say, but like the little things for me made such a difference. Like I would say, okay, if I'm in my living room and I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna do 5, it started out like 5, I'm gonna do 5 sit-ups at every commercial. And even now, like I still do that. Or like I'll do lunges down the hallway in between commercials, or even now, like I park at the back of a parking lot. Like I don't search for the closest parking spot. I park clear, not always clear in the back, depending on, time, but I tried to make those little changes that really had added up, and it wasn't, any big thing. Eventually I started running. I've done a couple half marathons and run 5Ks on the weekend. But I really do think it was those little itty-bitty changes that added up, kept me going. And I always told myself that, it took 25 years to put this on, and it's sure the hell not going to happen overnight to get it off. It took me about 2 years total to lose the weight. Yeah, I think just sticking with it was like the biggest thing, and not getting discouraged, and finding hope in things other than the numbers of the scale. My pants were fitting looser. I could go up a flight of stairs. So, yeah.
I basically walked into Justin's gym and probably had no business being there at first. But it just started out small. Just realized that, I couldn't sit and do 50 burpees straight or do, any of the movements. Started just learning how to squat, and really probably for the first couple months didn't even really touch much weight, which really pissed me off. I mean, it really did. But you're a guy, you should lift weight. But just learning, and I appreciated that, because at the end of the day, I had back problems, and really took those from having bad back to not having a bad back as much, and just really scaled a lot of stuff. Started out like doing pull-ups with probably multiple bands, to being able to do, I will never forget doing that, doing a pull-up on my own for the first time without bands or anything, and then I'll never forget a box jump because I broke a box, but the first one I ever did. But it was starting out, jumping up onto a 6-inch rise, and then up to now I can do 32 inches. So just different things like that just started small and worked my way up, and still have a long way to go.
So talk a little bit more about everybody I've ever worked with in terms of weight loss. There's always this like a pretty significant emotional component that comes with it, I think, that it always gets dealt with first. So talked about like what that was initially, like when you come to the notion that, okay, I got myself here, why did I get myself here, how did I let myself get here, and then the sustainment of it, because I think that's incredibly important too, because a lot of people start, a lot of people start, not everybody finishes. So how do you, kind of somebody said yo-yoing, when you experience that, what is it that sustains yourself to keep going through that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for me, it's just looking at where I was at. I mean, I've got there's a picture right in our bedroom, and I wake up every morning and look at it, and I'd have to show you. Right now I wear a size 38 pants, and at that time I was probably like a 50, 52, and I mean, my face is just huge. It was just, and every morning when I wake up I see that picture, and I see my wife too. We both see it because she's lost like 40 pounds, but just seeing that picture, that's what motivates me not to get back to there. Like I said, I've gained almost 30 pounds in the past 6 months, but I know where I need to be. It's just being stupid and not, if you have a stressful day, just don't go to a convenience store and eat 10,000 calories. But so that's what kind of keeps me motivated. And also, we haven't had children of our own yet, but we're, on 4 adoption lists and making those progresses that, I know that when we get the phone call that I'll be able to run with my kids and chase them and do the things I do. And so that's, inevitably, that was the first thing Justin said to me, why are you doing the way? And it's now when I look at something, it makes me realize don't let food be your crutch, don't let alcohol be your crutch, whatever it is. Don't let sitting on the couch be your crutch.
I think Josh had a good point about finding whatever that thing is and allowing that to be your crutch. I grew up in a very abusive household, and I went to food. My father was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and it was very, like I said, very abusive, and I found solitude and comfort in going and eating a gallon of ice cream. And those are still, issues that I continue to deal with. Now I just, instead of running and eating in my room, I, go have a walk, or, I find comfort in exercising and feeling good. So, that's still a struggle, and it's something, that I'm dealing with and still trying to find myself and separating that. I wish I could say, I beat it, but I don't know if you ever truly, can separate that. I still kind of feel like I'm the fat girl at heart. I still feel awkward. I still feel heavy, and so, it's a continuing thing.
I think the huge thing for me was I never felt good enough. Even looking back as a child, I was the good kid. I got good grades. I didn't cause trouble, which meant I didn't get attention. And so, I felt like I was always, trying to get that attention, and because I didn't, I was somehow falling short. And my issues were food, were definitely, learned behaviors from my mother. You celebrated with food, you cured illnesses with food, you drowned your sorrows in food. But the big thing with me was learning that I didn't have to be that girl, and I didn't have to be my mom, that it was okay to say, I do not have to be her. And I really think running was a huge part of that for me, because I learned to identify myself as someone kind of outside my body in a sense, even though running is such a physical activity, and I learned to identify success outside the scale. When I was training for my first half marathon, I had a schedule, and I put stickers on every, workout I did to make sure I completed it. I kept logs to show how my pace has improved. And then kind of also along that lines, I was setting my goal weight, and I was setting it for Weight Watchers at the high end, and my leader goes, why are you doing that? And I was like, well, I can never be skinnier than that. I can't, I'm lucky if I'm going to make goal. And she's like, why do you say that? I was like, I just can't. And she's like, don't sell yourself short. And so for my entire life, I thought, I am the fat girl, the fat mom, and I'm just not going to be her. And kind of saying, okay, you know what, you don't have to be, and allowing myself to kind of be someone else and identify myself as, something completely different was huge for me.
So let's stick with that then, because I see that a lot as well when you talk with people. Would you say that is the hardest part of the whole thing, is kind of creating an image for yourself?
Oh, definitely.